They call it the deadliest reptile on Earth. Every year, it kills more people than sharks, lions, and bears combined. Its hunting grounds stretch across Africa, where villagers know to fear the water at dawn and dusk. For centuries, it stayed there, contained by oceans, separated by continents, until it didn't. What I'm about to tell you sounds like science fiction, but it's documented fact. Somewhere between the exotic pet trade and human arrogance, we accidentally unleashed Africa's most efficient killer into the heart of the Florida Everglades. And by the time anyone noticed, it was already too late. This isn't a story about how it could happen. This is about how it did happen and what it means for the future of one of America's last wild frontiers. For millions of years, the Florida Everglades maintained a delicate equilibrium. Two apex predators ruled these waters through perfect territorial division. The American alligator, a freshwater titan, heavily armored and territorial, yet surprisingly tolerant of humans. Despite their fearsome reputation, there hasn't been a single fatal attack on a healthy adult in Florida over the past century. They're ambush predators, but humans simply aren't on their menu. Then there's the American crocodile, leaner, more reclusive, preferring the coastal mangroves and brackish estuaries. They're so shy that spotting one is considered a privilege among wildlife enthusiasts. Over 80 years without a fatal attack. These animals evolved to avoid humans at all costs. These two species achieved something remarkable: coexistence through territorial division. Alligators claimed the inland freshwater. Crocodiles took the coastal zones. When their territories overlapped, confrontations were brief and rarely violent. The system worked because it was isolated, protected by millions of years of evolution from outside threats. But this harmony depended on one critical factor: the absence of invasive apex predators. The moment humans decided these prehistoric creatures would make fascinating pets, we shattered that balance forever. The rumor started in 2009. A homeowner near Homestead reported seeing a crocodile that didn't look right: broader snout, darker coloration. Aggressive behavior. Park rangers dismissed it as mistaken identity. Then more reports flooded in. Fishing guides with decades of experience, wildlife photographers, environmental surveyors, all describing the same anomaly: crocodiles displaying characteristics completely unlike Florida's native species. Scientists were skeptical. Internet hysteria, they assumed. Until Dr. Frank Mazzotti, a wildlife ecologist at the University of Florida, decided to investigate. Working with state officials, he organized systematic surveys, set traps, and collected DNA samples from captured specimens. The results came back impossible. These weren't American crocodiles. They weren't hybrids. The genetic markers were unmistakable: Nile crocodiles, Crocodilus niloticus, native to sub-Saharan Africa and responsible for hundreds of human deaths annually. One of the world's most dangerous reptiles had somehow established a breeding population 6,000 miles from where it should be. The question shifted from "are they here?" to something far more terrifying: how many are there, and how do we stop them? To comprehend the crisis Florida faced, you need to understand what makes the Nile crocodile fundamentally different. In their native Africa, Nile crocodiles kill an estimated 200 to 300 people every year. These aren't defensive attacks, they're predatory. They possess a bite force exceeding 5,000 pounds per square inch, powerful enough to crush a buffalo's skull. They can hold their breath for over an hour while waiting motionless beneath the surface. When they strike, it's explosive, a 1,600-pound animal launching itself out of the water faster than you can blink. But raw power isn't what makes them truly dangerous. It's their intelligence. Nile crocodiles are learning predators. They study prey behavior, identify patterns, and exploit them ruthlessly. In Africa, they learn which riverbanks villagers use to collect water and wait there at predictable times. They don't fear humans, they hunt us. For millennia, we've been part of their prey landscape. These reptiles commonly reach 16 to 18 feet, with exceptional individuals topping 20 feet and weighing over 1,600 pounds. They're faster, more aggressive, and far more territorial than any reptile Florida has ever encountered. Wildlife officials launched emergency surveys. What they discovered was even more alarming. Genetic analysis revealed at least 3 distinct lineages among captured specimens. This wasn't one escaped pet. This was multiple introduction events spanning years, possibly decades. Someone had been systematically releasing Nile crocodiles into Florida's waterways, and they'd had time to establish territories and reproduce. For the American crocodile, already endangered with only 2,000 individuals in Florida, this was an existential threat. The Nile crocodile wasn't just another predator, it was a direct competitor for identical resources. Same food sources, same nesting sites, same territory, except bigger, more aggressive, and evolutionarily optimized for outcompeting rivals. Biologists documented the devastation in real time. American crocodile nesting sites were being taken over. Juveniles were disappearing. The delicate population recovery that conservationists had fought decades to achieve was being reversed by an invader that should never have existed here. The investigation into how this happened reveals a perfect storm of negligence and greed. For decades, Florida's exotic pet laws were absurdly lax. Until 2010, you could legally own a Nile crocodile with minimal permits. Reptile dealers imported them by the hundreds as hatchlings, adorable 6-inch babies that wealthy collectors couldn't resist. But hatchlings grow. That cute baby becomes 6 feet in 3 years, then 10 feet, then 15. Suddenly your pet requires a reinforced concrete enclosure, hundreds of pounds of meat monthly, and insurance premiums that make your homeowner's policy skyrocket. If you can even find coverage, the animal becomes a liability, a financial drain, a source of constant anxiety. And the owner faces a choice: spend tens of thousands on lifetime care for an animal that could live 60 years, surrender it and face legal consequences, or release it. The Everglades became a dumping ground, remote, vast, teeming with prey, perfect for someone trying to absolve themselves of responsibility. Researchers traced several specimens back to specific breeders through genetic analysis and microchip identification. Some still had tracking chips implanted by their sellers. Legal actions were threatened. A few facilities faced fines, but prosecuting individual owners proved impossible. The damage was done. This was human negligence at its most destructive. The desire to own something exotic combined with the absolute refusal to accept responsibility. We engineered an ecological catastrophe that threatened both Florida's unique wildlife and human safety. By 2014, Florida officials faced nightmare scenarios. Immediate eradication efforts began, but trappers quickly discovered Nile crocodiles were vastly more cunning than alligators. Traditional baited traps went ignored. Standard capture techniques failed repeatedly. The crocodiles learned to recognize boat engine sounds and would submerge before trappers arrived. One large individual evaded capture for 3 years, despite constant monitoring and multiple ambushes. Meanwhile, the American crocodile population showed unprecedented stress. Nesting success plummeted. Juvenile survival dropped. Competition for critical basking sites became violent, with American crocodiles frequently displaced. But the most chilling concern was human safety. Florida's tourism depends on safe waterways. Millions kayak, fish, and swim in Everglades waters every year, trusting that native species pose minimal threat. Nile crocodiles destroyed that trust completely. Officials discussed the unthinkable, designated man-eater zones, areas where human access would be restricted due to confirmed Nile crocodile activity. The economic impact would be devastating. The cultural cost, surrendering America's wilderness to an invasive predator, incalculable. Environmental groups faced an impossible paradox. How do you advocate for wildlife protection when that wildlife is an invasive species actively destroying an endangered native population and threatening human lives? The answer was brutal and unavoidable: total eradication. Every single Nile crocodile had to be removed by any means necessary. The alternative was watching an endangered species slide toward extinction while creating genuine man-eating zones in one of America's most visited national parks. Today, officials believe they've successfully neutralized the established Nile crocodile population. The last confirmed capture occurred in 2016. Extensive surveys have found no genetic evidence of continued presence. But "we think we got them all" is very different from "the threat is over." A single breeding pair could restart the nightmare. The Everglades spans 1.5 million acres. Finding every individual of an intelligent predator evolved to avoid detection is functionally impossible. So vigilance continues. Every crocodilian captured undergoes DNA analysis. Suspected sightings trigger rapid response protocols. Environmental DNA sampling screens dozens of waterways. Trail cameras and drone surveys run on regular schedules. The American crocodile population shows encouraging recovery. Nesting success has improved. Juvenile survival is approaching pre-invasion levels. Full recovery will take decades, but the trajectory is positive. This crisis transformed wildlife management across the southern United States. Florida's exotic pet regulations underwent massive overhaul. Owning dangerous reptiles now requires extensive permits, surprise inspections, and millions in liability insurance. Other states followed Florida's lead. The Everglades remains one of the world's most unique ecosystems, but forever changed, and forever on watch. The Nile crocodile invasion isn't isolated. It's a preview of an accelerating crisis. Florida is already ground zero for invasive disasters. Burmese pythons have decimated Everglades mammals, some species down 90%. Lionfish destroy reef ecosystems. Tegus raid bird nests. Each invasion follows the same pattern. Humans import exotic animals, fail to contain them, and ecosystems pay the price. But the Nile crocodile was uniquely dangerous because it combined ecological destruction with direct human threat. The first modern Florida invasion, where the invader regularly kills people. Every exotic pet is a potential ecological time bomb. The problem isn't the animals, they're just surviving where they were placed. The problem is human behavior, the desire for exotic status symbols, the refusal to plan long-term, the willingness to dump unwanted pets rather than accept responsibility. Florida learned through near catastrophe. The question is whether we've truly learned or whether we're just waiting for the next invasion. Because in nature, there's always a next time. Thanks for watching. If this shocked you, hit subscribe for more investigations into nature's most critical issues. Drop a comment. Should exotic pet ownership face stricter regulations? And remember, every release is an invasion. Every abandoned pet is a potential disaster. Choose responsibility.